The most powerful marketing asset in your company might not be your marketing team. It might actually be your CEO. And most businesses hide them, not because they don't believe in their leadership, but because they think marketing should come from the brand, the website, the campaign, the ads. But here's the problem. People don't trust companies. They trust people. And the most powerful person in your company to build that trust is usually your CEO. And the companies that understand this are quietly building massive trust in their market, while everyone else is still hiding behind marketing. Because visibility isn't really about attention, it's about trust, and trust is what is actually driving sales. My name is Adam Booth, and on this channel we talk about how businesses use video to build trust and authority, and not just to gain views. When buyers are considering working with a company, they're not just evaluating the product, they're evaluating the people behind it. Who's leading this company? How do they think? What do they believe about the industry? What do they stand for? And if those answers are invisible, trust takes a lot longer to build. Think about it from a buyer's perspective. They land on a company website, the messaging is polished, the branding looks great, there are testimonials, maybe there's even a case study, but something still feels like it's missing because the company still feels anonymous. You don't know who is actually behind it. You don't know who you're trusting with your problem. And anonymous companies are harder to trust. But when leadership shows up consistently, especially on video, something interesting happens. The company starts to feel, well, human. The companies that figure this out, they turn their CEOs into something incredibly powerful, a media asset. Not in the sense of becoming an influencer, but in the sense of becoming the most trusted voice in their market. In a minute, I'm going to show you something very interesting. There's a simple shift companies make that turn their CEOs from someone who runs the company into someone who actually drives the company's marketing. A great example of this is Steve Jobs. Back in the early 2000s, when Apple launched something new, people didn't just read about it, they watched Steve Jobs present it. And those presentations became full-blown events. Not because of the slides, not because of the stage, those were actually usually very simple, but it was because of how he communicated. You could see how he thought about the product and why it existed, why it mattered, and how he actually believed it would change the world. That kind of communication builds enormous trust. Not because people trust a corporation, but because they trust the person leading the vision. Even today, people still watch those presentations years after he's passed away. Entrepreneurs study them, marketing teams study them, because they weren't just product launches, they were leadership communicating directly with the audience. And that helped build one of the most trusted brands in the world. Now, obviously most CEOs aren't launching the next iPhone, but the principle is exactly the same, especially in B2B. In B2B markets, buyers are making big decisions. They're choosing partners, they're trusting companies with serious budgets. And when those decisions are being made, people want reassurance. They want to understand who they're working with. They want to know how leadership thinks, because leadership sets the direction of the company. And this is a shift I mentioned earlier. The moment a CEO starts communicating directly with their audience, they stop being invisible leadership and they become one of the company's most powerful marketing assets. Here's what happens in most businesses. The marketing team runs the campaigns, the website gets redesigned, the ads are optimized, the messaging is refined, but leadership is invisible. And when leadership is invisible, the company starts to feel like a marketing machine, not a group of people solving real problems, just another polished brand trying to sell you something. But when leadership shows up consistently, explaining ideas, sharing insights, talking about the challenges their customers face, the business suddenly feels real. And that changes everything. Imagine you're considering hiring a consulting firm, or a software company, or a professional services firm. You narrow it down to maybe 2 companies, both look good, both have strong websites, both have solid case studies. But with one of those companies, you've seen the CEO speak about the industry. You've watched them explain problems in the market. You've heard about how they think about solving those problems. By the time you get on a call, it already feels familiar. It already feels like you understand the company. That familiarity creates trust, and trust dramatically increases the likelihood of doing business. This is why leadership visibility has such a big impact on sales, because by the time a prospect gets on a call with your team, they already feel like they know the company. They understand how you think, they understand your philosophy, they understand what you stand for, and most importantly, they already trust you. That shortens sales cycles, it reduces skepticism, it removes friction, and it makes conversations easier for your sales team, because they're no longer starting from zero. And this is becoming even more important right now because we're entering a world filled with AI-generated content. AI can write blog posts, AI can generate ads, AI can create marketing copy, which means content itself is becoming easier and easier to produce. And when something becomes easier to produce, it becomes less valuable. What becomes more valuable is authenticity, a real person, a real leader, someone willing to stand behind what the company does. That signal is becoming incredibly powerful. At the end of the day, people trust people far more than they trust brands. That's why putting a face to your company matters. It builds trust faster. It builds familiarity and it builds authority in your market. People want to know who they're trusting to solve their problem, and your CEO is often the best person to communicate why your company is the right solution. Well, I hope that was helpful. If you're using video in marketing right now, I'd be curious, what role is it actually playing in your business? Is it generating leads? Is it building trust? Or is it just sitting on your website? Let me know in the comments. And if you're interested in using video more strategically to build trust and authority, there are a few more videos on this channel that break that down even further. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.